are live on Zoom. Acting Captain Reifschneider, you may start.
Hello, I'm Acting Captain James Reifschneider with the Palo Alto Police Department. Welcome to the final of 4 planned community briefings. Our goal today is to provide our community with a better understanding of a few key areas of how we do our job. The topic of today's community briefing is accountability. Before we begin, a note on questions and comments. Public comments are enabled during this meeting, but we will not be answering questions live, as the intent behind these community briefings is to deliver a presentation and provide specific information on a specific topic that's provided to attendees of our Citizens Academy and our Advanced Citizens Academy. Comments and questions submitted today will inform further conversations that are planned in the months of July and August at the Human Relations Commission and other discussions yet to be scheduled. An overview of today's community briefing, and here's some topics we're intending to cover. As I said, the goal of today's briefing is to provide you with a better understanding of all of the components of police accountability. To do that, we'll discuss a number of things. We'll discuss the training that's provided to our officers, the technology we use to evaluate our officers' performance, oversight within the police department, the role of the independent police auditor, the Chiefs Advisory Group, the City Council and Human Relations Commission, and other government entities. Before we begin, I wanted to highlight the department's core values. We value and expect teamwork, trust, integrity, accountability, a positive attitude, and the professional, impartial treatment of all. While all of those are important, of particular import for today, you'll notice that accountability is front and center. As public servants, first and foremost, police officers are entrusted with a significant amount of authority. In order for us to be effective, the public must know that we can be trusted to use that authority wisely and fairly. How do we build that trust? Well, in my view, it's cultivating meaningful relationships in the community and by listening to the feedback of the community. If the first time a resident meets one of our officers is when something has gone wrong, that's too late. That's why our department emphasizes community policing efforts, whether it's attending community events or just having a conversation in line at the coffee shop. We want our officers meeting and engaging with our citizens. Police officers operate within a system of very complex rules and laws. They're frequently called upon to make decisions in the blink of an eye, often under stressful circumstances. Despite the hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of training that our police officers receive, police officers are ultimately still human, just like you. That means inevitably, sometimes officers will make mistakes, and sometimes they will not meet the department's expectations or the community's expectations. Of course, the community wants to know when we're doing our job well, but the community needs to know that when we do fall short, we hold ourselves accountable. A crucial component of police accountability is police training. We have to give our officers the training they need to do the job the way we expect it to be done. It's helpful to understand that police officer training, both basic and ongoing, in California is regulated by California Post. Post stands for Peace Officer Standards and Training Bureau. Post is the state entity that establishes minimum training standards for police, as well as certifying training curriculum. Agencies can provide training above and beyond what Post requires, and Palo Alto PD does just that in many cases. So I'm going to spend a few minutes telling you about a few of the elements of the training our officers receive. The foundation of any police officer's training is the basic police academy. The Academy curriculum is largely dictated by California Post, and this is to ensure a statewide baseline and standardization of police training. The basic police academies used by Palo Alto PD provide in excess of 1,000 hours of instruction to recruits over approximately 6 months. The national average for a basic police academy is 840 hours, but some states provide as few as 400 hours of training to their police officers. In addition to their academy training, Palo Alto Police provides a 2-week in-house training session to each new officer before they ever hit the streets of Palo Alto. It's worth noting that within the law enforcement industry, California police officers are viewed as amongst the best trained in the nation, and other states look to California for best practices when it comes to police training. After completing the 6-month basic police academy and our 2-week in-house training program, new PAPD officers enter what we call the field training program, or the FTO program. This is when they have to demonstrate that they can apply what they learned during the academy to real-world situations. Over the course of 4 months, officers are coached and evaluated by an experienced field training officer who rides along in the car with them. Over the course of that 4 months, the trainee officers are expected to take on more responsibility up to the point at which they are able to be a solo officer. Only when they're deemed ready to be a solo officer do they graduate from the field training program. California Post requires that every officer receive 24 hours of ongoing training per 24-month period. Palo Alto PD typically far exceeds that number by providing 50 to 75 hours of training to each officer annually. And those officers who have specialized assignments, such as investigations, traffic, or SWAT, receive quite a bit of training above and beyond even that 50 to 75 hours per year. One important subject that is covered within police officer training is de-escalation. California Basic Police Academies provide 16 hours of de-escalation training as part of the Basic Police Academy. This training emphasizes the use of de-escalation and conflict resolution techniques to try to avoid the use of force by police officers. Palo Alto PD, above and beyond that, provides 2 hours of tactical communication training to every new officer as part of that in-house 2-week program I referenced a few minutes ago. California Post requires that all peace officers receive 2 hours of tactical communication refresher training every 24 months. Palo Alto PD has always met or exceeded that standard in terms of duration and frequency. Crisis intervention training. Many police calls for service, criminal and otherwise, involve persons with mental health issues. CIT, or crisis intervention training, is designed to prepare officers for how best to deal with persons in crisis. Much of the training is in fact provided by mental health professionals with expertise in the area. During the academy in California, every recruit receives 40 hours of crisis intervention training. Above and beyond that, Palo Alto PD exceeds that post standard by sending every one of its officers to an additional 24 hours of what's called advanced CIT training. At the moment, 95% of our officers have attended that advanced training. Those who haven't are our newest officers. Implicit bias and cultural diversity training. One final area of training I felt was important to touch on in this briefing is implicit bias and cultural diversity. All new Palo Alto PD officers receive 16 hours of cultural diversity instruction during the academy. They also receive 26 hours of instruction during the academy in a course entitled Principled Policing in the Community. This course is geared toward community policing concepts. Thereafter, California Post also requires that all officers receive at least 2 hours of cultural diversity training as a refresher, no less frequently than every 5 years after graduating the academy. Palo Alto PD has always met or exceeded that standard. So technology might not seem like an obvious part of accountability, but it does give us an important tool. Once we've trained our officers and laid out our expectations for them, the question is, how do we evaluate that? Well, one key way we can evaluate that is by documenting their performance and reviewing it. And that's where technology comes in. The Palo Alto Police Department has had fixed cameras on its patrol vehicles since 2006, but those cameras have come a long way since then. In 2014, each of our cars was equipped with 4 exterior high-definition cameras. Those provide 270 degrees of coverage around the exterior of the vehicle. In addition, there's an interior high-definition camera that captures the rear prisoner area of the car. We are one of only a few California agencies to use this multi-view high-definition system. In September 2018, our officers began using body-worn cameras. They synchronize with the in-car video and audio. It's worth noting, many departments who've begun to use body-worn cameras are doing so in lieu of in-car video. In contrast, the Palo Alto Police Department added body-worn cameras to our arsenal as a way to complement our already robust in-car video system.
Good afternoon, sir. Major Pecoraro with the Palo Alto Police Department. The reason why I'm stopping you is for running that stop sign back there.
Yeah,
do you have any legal explanation as to why that occurred?
No, I'm just totally late for a meeting.
Okay. Can I see your license, registration, and proof of insurance, please?
Yeah.
Sir.
And registration and insurance.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Is everything current on your license and registration?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. The reason why we're out here is to educate people about stopping at stop signs, okay? We need everybody to stop safely.
That's
Okay.
really good.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, please drive safely. Careful pulling out into traffic.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
I've always found that the best way to describe the quality and the quantity of video that we capture is by demonstration. I hope, having seen this mock traffic stop as captured by our video system, that you're as impressed as I was when I first saw what we could do. So now that we've talked about what technology can do for us, let's talk about what we do that's not technological, because that's just one tool. Even more important is the direct oversight provided by our supervisors. Supervisors at the Palo Alto Police Department are tasked with completing administrative investigations under 3 circumstances. 1, officer uses of force. For example, an officer chases and tackles a criminal suspect, and the suspect sustains either an injury or complains of pain. 2, a complaint from a citizen concerning officer conduct. For example, a citizen reports that an officer was discourteous or that an officer performed an improper search. 3, investigations of officer conduct that are internally generated. For example, a supervisor observes improper conduct by an employee. In each of these cases, the purpose of the investigation is to determine whether the officer's conduct complied with applicable law and department policy. To provide some context, I thought it would be helpful for you to have a sense of how frequently, or really how infrequently, each of these situations arises. As you can see, from January 2015 to December 2019, our officers responded to 250,000 calls for service. During that same time, the department investigated 62 uses of force, about 1 per month, 77% of which involved no more force than an officer's hands. 11 taser activations, about 2 per year. 1 officer-involved shooting, which, by the way, was our only officer-involved shooting over the last 18 years. 14 formal citizen complaints, only 3 a year, and 15 internally generated investigations against officers, again, about 3 a year. The fact that we have so few uses of force and complaints is a real testament to our officers' professionalism, but it also affords us the opportunity to thoroughly investigate the few incidents that we do have. These investigations can be complex and often time-consuming because they involve interviewing witnesses, reviewing associated reports, and reviewing all of the associated audio and video, which, as you can imagine, can be substantial. Once the investigation is complete, it is reviewed by each level of command. For example, an investigation completed by a sergeant would be reviewed by a lieutenant, a captain, the assistant chief, and finally the chief. If an investigation reveals that an officer's conduct is not within policy, he or she is either provided additional training or subjected to discipline. This discipline can include up to termination. Ultimate disciplinary authority rests with the chief of police. While we are confident in our internal oversight measures, accountability is always strengthened by independent evaluation, and that's where the independent police auditor comes in. Who is the independent police auditor, or as we call them, the IPA? Since 2006, the City of Palo Alto has contracted with an independent auditor to evaluate police performance. Since the IPA is an outside entity made up of lawyers with particular experience in law enforcement best practices and law enforcement misconduct, the firm that audits Palo Alto performs similar work for many other departments around the country. But it's noteworthy that among more than a dozen law enforcement agencies in Santa Clara County, only 2, Palo Alto Police and San Jose Police, have an independent auditor. All of the other agencies in the county rely entirely on internal oversight. The IPA does not work for the police department. They are accountable directly to the city council. You may be wondering what falls within the purview of the IPA. So the IPA reviews 3 different categories of incidents. They take a look at all Palo Alto PD administrative reports concerning taser applications, all officer-involved shootings. The second category is citizen complaints, of which they see all. The third category is all internally generated reports that have a nexus to the public. The IPA does not conduct its own investigations. Rather, their function is to review our investigations for thoroughness, objectivity, and appropriateness of disposition. With that said, if a complainant reports a concern directly to the IPA relays that to us, and we do initiate an investigation. The IPA generates its reports twice per year. These reports contain a detailed factual summary of each of the incidents they reviewed, as well as an indication of whether they agreed with our administrative finding. Very often, the IPA also includes recommendations for amending policies in the interest of incorporating industry best practices. Over the years, we have in fact implemented a number of the IPA's recommendations. The IPA's reports are published publicly and are then archived all the way back to 2006 on Palo Alto PD's website for you to view. When Chief Johnson joined Palo Alto Police Department in 2018, he brought with him a successful concept from his previous department. That is the Chief's Advisory Group. Chief Johnson invited all interested residents to apply for the Chief's Advisory Group and accepted everyone who did. Many were graduates of our Citizens Academy and Citizens Advanced Academy. Since 2018, the group has met approximately quarterly to discuss topical issues and new policies, such as the rollout of body-worn cameras in the fall of 2018, and more recently to discuss the department's use of force policies. Ultimately, of course, the police department is a department of the city of Palo Alto. So of course it falls under the oversight of the city council and at the council's direction, the Human Relations Commission. In early 2020, the city council held a special study session concerning police department operations. More recently, the city council has established several ad hoc committees tasked with examining such issues as police use of force policies and police transparency. In addition, the council has tasked the Human Relations Commission with evaluating the department's alignment with police use of force best practices. This will result in several public meetings, including one this evening, and a later public report. Oversight of the Palo Alto Police Department does not stop at the city limits. Several other government entities collect data from us and evaluate our performance. The Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office collaboratively investigates and evaluates all officer-involved shootings in the County of Santa Clara. DA investigators and a prosecutor are assigned to each such incident to assure that a thorough and objective investigation is completed. And after reviewing all of the evidence and reports, the DA's office publishes a thorough report on each incident. It's worth noting that in many other places in the country, officer-involved shootings are considered by a grand jury, not the DA's office, and the grand jury operates in secret and does not publish a report regarding its findings. I should add too that the DA's office has recently expressed a willingness to begin reviewing additional types of cases involving officer use of force. That discussion is ongoing. The U.S. Department of Justice collects a variety of statistics from our department and all departments concerning officer uses of force. In 2020, it was also announced that the U.S. Department of Justice would create a program by which local police departments could be certified as complying with best practices. Although that program does not yet exist, Palo Alto PD is interested in this certification program. The California Department of Justice also collects a variety of statistics from local agencies, including use of force information. Beginning in 2023, California law will require Palo Alto PD to provide detailed demographic data about all of its stops to California DOJ. We anticipate being able to provide that data earlier than the 2023 deadline. In closing, I thought it was important to share our department's mission statement: to proudly serve and protect the public with respect and integrity. I am very proud of the men and women of this department and the work that we do every day in furtherance of that mission statement. But with that said, we will occasionally fall short. I hope this presentation has given you some confidence that when that happens, we have the mechanisms in place to critically evaluate ourselves, hold our officers accountable, and implement policy changes as needed. If you are interested in more information about any of the topics that were discussed during this briefing, there are several relevant links here that you might consider visiting. Thank you very much for your time today and for your interest in learning more about the Palo Alto Police Department. I hope this presentation has been helpful, and more importantly, that it will be the beginning of many productive conversations to come. Thank you very much.